Hi, welcome to Leave Taken. This is Mika, and here at Leave Taken I talk about all things witchy, craft-related, law of attraction, manifesting, esoteric, and everything else in between. And today I want to talk about my witchy review, and my review is on the series called The Good Witch. So this is a series that appears on Hallmark. It just wrapped up, but it is available on Netflix to binge. I picked this because representation matters. Witchy representation matters. That's why I picked it, and also I think the show is actually pretty good. So, The Good Witch is based on a movie series that Hallmark shows or had been showing some years ago, and the original movie was called The Good Witch. It stars Cassandra. I can't get it out. It stars the name of the character is Cassandra Nightingale. I don't know why I'm messing this up. And Catherine Bell is the actual actress. So anyway, the movie series basically starts off where this newcomer comes to town, Cassie, and she takes residence in an old abandoned mansion there called they call it the Gray House. And she fixes it up. That's her intention, to fix it up. But the townspeople don't know that. Everything's mysterious. They just know there's been activity there. The town sheriff gets involved because of a very nosy, the mayor's wife. And it's very quaint because it is the Hallmark Channel. Long story short, Cassie comes to this small town because she wants to basically just be a part of something. She felt called there. The Gray House is inherited to her from a now deceased relative, and she really didn't have family, so she wanted to put down roots, and she felt called using her intuition. And that's really what the movies and the series kind of tap into. She used intuitive magic. That's basically what her magic is, intuition. She knows when someone comes in the room. She knows exactly who it is. She knows sometimes things are going to happen before they happen, and she can warn people. So it's a whole thing with that. So that's basically what her magic is about. Now, one of the reasons that I really love the show is because, at least in the movies, and I'll get into the series in just a little bit, but in the movies, Cassie Nightingale's character is a lot more witchy. She's like putting poultices on, wounds for the kids who got hurt. She's always making potions and things like that. In the first movie, they show her broom, her witch's broom, and there's some funny stuff with that. Basically, it's like they don't actually show it. Everything's like a hint that she might be using the broom to travel from one place to the other. She sort of just pops up into places you don't hear her. She's just there. So it's like as if by magic she just pops up on the scene. That trend is carried even through the series, the weekly series. But I do appreciate the fact that she's much more witchy in the movies. And she marries a cop. He's a sheriff. So, he's very straight, narrow, practical-minded type of guy. And I love how accepting he is of her and that dynamic. So it's about 4 or 5 movies before they get to the series. And in the movies, Jake, that's his name, he's the sheriff. He's of Middleton is the town. And I think the town is supposed to be based in Illinois, because they're near Chicago. They talk about Chicago a lot, so it's in Illinois. But anyway, Middleton, the town is a small, quaint town, and they're not used to, magic. So she gets opposition. There's conflict when she first gets there, but basically certain people in the town fall under her spell, and once doing so, it's not so much she's fighting the town folk, but the others in the town, including Jake, sort of stand up for her, and they do a lot of the fighting for her and a lot of persuasion to convince everybody else to sort of fall under her same spell. And thus begins the Good Witch and her story in Middleton. So as the story progresses, she marries Jake, the sheriff, and they start a family, and then he's already got kids, and it's a whole thing. And I like the movies. It was very sweet. It was missing a bit of an element as far as I was concerned, where the reality of it is being married to someone so straight and narrow, a cop, and she's so, new agey and all of this other stuff. I could see how that would eventually have more conflicts, and he had kids from a previous marriage. His wife had died, because in Hallmark world, no one gets divorced. Spoiler alert. In Hallmark universe, in Christmas movies, all of them, it's rare that you see divorce. It is. I think I've saw one Christmas movie where they were divorced, but for the most part, somebody had to die for that marriage to end. So even in this part of their universe, in the Good Witch universe, somebody had to die, get divorced. So keep that in mind, because once the movie's wrapped up and they turned it into a weekly series, Jake died. He dies. They kill the sheriff off because they wanted to bring in a different lead, I would imagine, to start the television, the weekly series instead of the movies. And they bring in Sam. He's the doctor. He moves next door. He is also a single parent. However, he is divorced. But I think that was a very intentional thing, because they brought in the ex-wife, and there was a season she was involved, because they wanted the conflict. They needed the conflict. Unlike Hallmark movies, where things could be wrapped up and tied up in a cute little bow by the end, a series, you need some conflict. You need ongoing conflict. So the Sam character was divorced. There's actually another character who's divorced in there as well, and I kind of like that they do that more here. They make it a little bit more real life, and on the television series, more so in the movies. But anyway, yeah. So Cassie now gets to do the same thing she did with Jake, except now with the doctor, who's also very, practical minded, science minded type of guy. But I think because he's a doctor and he's understanding of, okay, he knows the human body, he knows the physical. She helps him understand the spiritual. And I love that. I love that they explore that on the show. That's something that I'm very familiar with. My husband's in IT. He's very technical minded. So I think in our relationship, help him also more with the more metaphysical, spiritual side of things. And he is appreciative. Of course, he's not all in all the time, because somebody who's very practical minded will not be. They're just not. And that's okay. But it works. It works. As long as there's mutual respect, which their relationship on the television series, the weekly series, does reflect. There's a certain level of respect. And basically there's a love story, because it's Hallmark, within it, but then there's the other components as well, because they have a blended family, and there's that part, and her daughter apparently has inherited her same intuitive magic skill. And then they bring in other family members who were long lost family members, who also has the same intuitive skill as well as Cassie. The thing where they pop up as if out of nowhere. They always know who's in a room, and they kind of have an idea of what's going to happen before it happens. So the show is enchanting at best. The way this TV show comes on, even the movies, the intro is so cool, and it looks very witchy. And I think Hallmark typically every Halloween does like a movie for the show, or they do like a special. Now they call it a special, because Cassie always celebrates Halloween. Cassie, because she never goes. More in the movies they use the term witch, but in the TV weekly series, they don't usually say witch very often. They'll say woo-woo, or, mystical or magical, those types of terms, but they never she never calls herself a witch. And that's fine. I get it. They're walking a fine line here on that network. I would recommend, especially now that we're coming up on Halloween, go ahead and binge watch it. It's wholesome because it's Hallmark. So don't be expecting too much, but, if you are a little tired of trying to find witchy shows to watch that don't involve something dark all the time, sometimes it doesn't have to be a horror or mystery or, with teenagers. And I'm somebody who loves, you know, I watched Vampire Diaries. I love when Bonnie's part came on because, and she, the way they treated Bonnie on that show, if you watch Vampire Diaries, you know. Legacy, I watched the Legacy series, which was exploring more of the witchcraft that was from Vampire Diaries. Well, actually, that's from the other show. I'm getting ready to go into the whole thing of this whole line of series of the other show. But anyway, the point is, if you don't want to watch, if you're kind of, I don't want to say sick of it, but you've seen enough. I like it because Cassie Nightingale is an adult woman. You know, she's a grown woman. She's not, you know, a young woman. And I appreciate that. You want to see more nuance in your characters because not everybody that practices magic has to be 20 something. And sometimes I think that you see a lot of that in media when they portray it. It's always younger women who are just finding out that they're a witch and they have to reconcile it, or they've always known, but there's a challenge or something like that. And those are great stories. I'm writing something similar to that. However, occasionally you want to see some of the older chicks, older being at least 30, older chicks come into, or not come into, but actively be witches and see that. And Hallmark Channel is giving that to us. It's a gift. So go ahead and check that out. I adore the series. I love the series. So I highly recommend watching it. Again, it's cheesy at times. You know, you get what you get. But if you can get past some of the cheesiness, and you might enjoy the show. It is on Netflix, as I mentioned. The weekly series is on Netflix. The movies, Hallmark is funny because they have that streaming service. And I think they want you to join the streaming service in order to watch the Hallmark Good Witch movies. But sometimes Hallmark reruns, then they'll do like a thing where it's like they'll take a weekend and they'll just rerun them. If you could watch them, then fine. Record them on your DVR and watch them, watch them later. Otherwise, if you don't mind, I don't know how much the membership, this streaming service costs, but if you wanted to just dip in to watch and then dip out, you know, who's the judge? Just to get the movies. I recommend watching the movies first. You can get into the series, but watching the movies, you'll have a better comparison at how they've sort of, the characters, especially the main characters, the central characters, Cassie, her cousin, Abigail, and where these people come from, because they brought them into the movies. It's great continuity. I'll give them that. I never feel like they've ventured too far from the original story that they introduced in the movies. But yeah, I love it. I'll be watching. I've seen all of them, but I'll watch them again because they're really good. And yeah, I highly recommend watching that series. So thanks for watching this channel and this video. I'm Mika, this is Leap Taken. Please go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. And also if you subscribe, again, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. All right, bye.